Hi, it's Jools on the Ancient Moon Woman and Friends sessions. And today we've got the lovely Sarah Horne. And Sarah is someone I met on a Jungian chat group and loved immediately her energy and just felt a lovely compassion coming through her posts. So I asked her, would she be my friend on Facebook? And hence I've now invited her to tell us more about her spiritual journey. Hi, Sarah, and welcome.
Hello, Jules. Thank you for having me.
Great pleasure. Um, so basically, I did say I kind of asked people to dive in at the deep end.
Yeah,
Um, and I'd love you to give us a flavour of your connection with spirituality.
lovely. Thank you. So, for me, then, I guess it began probably, maybe during my degree, I guess, about 20 odd years ago. I was quite happily not really spiritual. I was drinking quite a lot and partying, and then one day I happened to be in a bookshop, and the first thing I read, I think, that absolutely blew me away was it was the Neil Donald Walsh books, The Conversations with God. And when I read the second book, it was literally like I had a spiritual epiphany, and I was just bawling, and it was like something in me just went ding, and it really spoke to me, the idea that we're just, we're spiritual beings, we're God experiencing himself was his sort of idea, the idea that God knew everything in a sort of theoretical level, but not on an experiential level. And that just really connected with me. And I think at that point, that just kick-started a spiritual journey. And then I couldn't get enough of spirituality, but on and off, I guess. So I read another book that blew me away, and that was Orion Mountain Dreamer's book. And I can't remember what that one's called now. I think it was the first one she did, The Invitation. And that was really beautiful. And again, there were just the odd books stop, coming in and out. And then it was perhaps a few years later than that. And again, I'd either sort of dive into UFOs. That was another thing that I was really interested in, and I still am. And then after that, it was 2012. And 2012 was kind of interesting because I know that was the year that everything's supposed to sort of really kick off spiritually. But it really did for me as well. And at the time, my mum was suffering with Alzheimer's and dementia. She'd just been diagnosed. So there was a lot going on there. And then I had my own health issues as well. And I had an overactive thyroid. And I went on a couple of retreats. I started off going to Mune key rites, which was a sort of shamanic ritual.
Yeah.
And that blew me away. Again, I just felt a connection with something really, really deep and primal. And I loved it. And I was told, you're going to heal from your thyroid. It's going to be fine. And then I went, but you've got to find the journey yourself. So I went along to various other healers. I went to some key energy healers. I drank some plant medicine. Now I went on a couple of plant medicine retreats, and the first one I thought was ayahuasca, but the lady who was a shaman, my sort of go-to shaman at the time, who lived in Essex, she said to me, I don't think that was ayahuasca. She said, I'm not feeling it. She said, I think it was something else. So it could have been Syrian rue, I don't know. But what I do know is it blew my head off. And I had a connection that I'd been reading about in sort of Buddhist texts and stuff, the whole one connection, everything is one. And it was glorious. And I was just crying and crying and crying, but with happiness. And I kept saying, I've come home, I've come home. And of course, you can't put it into words, you can't. But that really stayed with me. And I did heal my thyroid, or spirit healed my thyroid, which was amazing. It took 2 goes, that's fine. And I loved that. And then, since then, I've just been on and off for the last 10 years or so. I guess I'd benched it. I'd made some poor life choices. I'd had some really dodgy ex-boyfriends and things like this. So I made some really appalling choices in my life that I wasn't proud of. And then I think because of that as well, I put up barriers about spirit. I thought, well, I'm not worthy, da 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 da. Yeah. And then now, this year, I've been feeling the connection again a lot more, and amazing things have been happening. Because we're trying, there's at the moment, there's a little group of people who were fighting to keep open a couple of restaurants at some extra care facilities. And one of the things I felt is I just felt like spirit was with us, helping us, you know, like the right people in the right place at the right time, the synchronicities, which has been amazing. So I feel like, and I've had some lovely healings again. So now I've been having, because I've got GERD, which is gastro, what's it called? I've forgotten what it's called now. It's reflux, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's been quite bad. So I've been having light language healing and some Rahani healing as well. I'm attuned to Reiki myself as well. So I know the power of healing, and I really feel passionate about that as well. Or I know something of the power of healing from spirit, you know. And I guess I feel really passionate about that, because so much can be healed that conventional medicine says, no, this is a disease, it can't be healed. I mean, like with the thyroid, when that went overactive, you're told, right, if it goes overactive again, we've got to whip it out, or, you know, but they whip it out and then it goes underactive. And that's their idea of a cure. And it's not a cure, it's a treatment. You know, it's the best they can do at the moment because it's an under-researched area. So, but spirit can heal in all sorts of ways. And so they say it's gone into remission, probably. You know, I haven't had any problems with it since 2012 now, which has been amazing. But there's just a real sense of, I guess there's a greater sense of purpose now. I want to live a more spiritual, rich life, and I want to feel much more led by spirit, because I think, you know, you take a look at the world around and it's just mad. It's so insane. And to me, the only thing that makes sense is spiritual connection and moving in, you know, in accordance with, or, you know, hopefully, you know, with spiritual beings on the other side, because I think that's what we're meant to do. I'm a bit of a conspiracy nut as well, so I genuinely think there are some people right at the top of the triangle, probably not our leaders, who deliberately like to keep humans in a bit of a, you know, subjugated place because it suits them, because then we can be slightly enslaved, or quite a lot enslaved, by the current system. Whereas if everybody knew that they were spiritual beings having a human experience, and that they could heal a lot more than they knew, and that they were eternal beings, I just think the whole world would change on a dime. You know, it really would.
It would.
Yeah.
And what that raises to me is, so what's the point in coming here?
My point in being here.
What would you say would, if that we get to that point?
Yeah.
Where the mess and the madness and the crazy and
the point of coming to Earth?
What is the point?
What is the point? Well, a lot of people would say Earth is a school and that we've just got to learn. And I think there is an awful lot of that in, and I guess maybe because I believe the Akashic records are real. So I believe that everything we do is recorded on the other side. And I guess it is all just a series of lessons. And I guess we've got to relearn what we once knew, which is just that having that place of love. And I think we've had all these spiritual teachers along the way come and give us nudges, you know, Jesus, Buddha, you know, and they've all said to us, look, this is an illusion. It's a beautiful illusion, you know, you're very enticing illusion, but it is in part illusion. And so don't get too caught up in the materiality. It is a lot of madness out there, I think, and maybe this connects back with Jung a bit. I think all that we can control is within us. We can't control what's outside, but we can work on us. And I think when we awaken and when we come more to a spiritual sense and all the rest of it, I think that can have a bit of a ripple effect as well.
Absolutely.
So I think
would you
really
say then
important
that the whole point in coming here,
it's
literally to grow yourself?
Yeah.
Had we not got this place of madness in which to do that work, so when the madness stops, how do we grow?
That is a really good point. That is a really good point, isn't it? Because people talk about the age of Aquarius and the idea that we're heading into a more spiritual time and all the rest of it. I don't know. I can't answer that. It's a really interesting question.
it not just be that it's these are all stages on the growth?
Yeah.
That it's not. So really, my question was
Yeah.
to help us grow.
Mm.
However, that doesn't mean all that madness out there is going to stop, whether we
No.
grow or not.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's all about our own growth
Yeah.
rather than thinking that I have to do this because I have to help the planet and da da da.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, that
Yeah.
has to me, be a huge consideration. But I think ultimately we have to actually realise that it is actually for our benefit.
Yeah,
Personally,
absolutely.
it is
Yeah.
for our benefit. And
Yeah.
when you weigh up the benefits and the detriments of being here, having an
Yeah.
incarnation, it's that, you know, and they say, is it, I can't remember now which Egyptian god puts the feather on the scale.
Oh yeah, I'm not
And
sure
it's
which
a
one.
case of, you know, did you just do the work that you are required to do
Yeah.
and tune into your stuff, your purpose,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
individually and not
Yeah.
meddle in other people's, if
Yeah,
that
that's
makes sense.
absolutely true.
Which then I think just covers the free will
Yeah.
question without worrying about, am I impinging on someone else's free will?
Yeah.
As long as you just look to your own stuff,
Yeah.
basically what others' free will is doing really is nothing to do with us. It's none of our business.
No, that's absolutely true. That is
And,
absolutely true.
and it's that place of, for me, I know you mentioned Jung and shadow work. Shadow
Yeah.
work. Oh, I'm a huge fan. When I
Yeah.
used to be its biggest, I'd be the one who ran away the quickest and furthest, you know.
Yeah,
And
well,
now
me
I'm the
too, me
biggest
too.
fan.
I've done a lot of avoidance in my life, an awful lot of avoidance, I think. So yeah.
So we met in the Jungian group, and it was
Yeah.
actually what attracted me to it was the creative bridge.
Mm,
I got that. I got that because
me too.
I'm
Yeah.
Reiki attuned. I know about the chakras. I
Yeah.
understand about the difference between intuition and instinct.
Mm,
The chakras, what they're for, what they're supposed to be, the energy
yeah.
receivers and transmitters. That's what attracted me was the word creativity. So
Yeah.
what would you say has been your journey with the creativity aspect of spirituality?
That is an interesting question. I think I love it when, because I am creative anyway. I mean, I write in my spare time, I write poetry. There's a couple of books that I keep coming back to. I'm a really bad procrastinator. So I think when it comes to, I think creativity is probably a form of spirituality in a way, because I think very often when you're writing or you're painting, you're connecting to something higher than you, and you're
Yeah,
not always consciously aware of it. But often people will say they just feel at peace, and and sometimes people will feel that absolutely that something is being channeled to them. You know, I think the idea of channeling, I think it's probably been with us for years, because I know a few singers have said that they are channeling, you know, another energy. Some of them even say they become another personality.
yeah.
There's a lovely idea that I read around a poet ages ago, and she used to say she was chased by a poem. She'd say literally there'd be a poem tumbling down a hill, and if she didn't run and catch it, it would go and someone else might get it, you know, sort of thing. And I love that idea that we are absolutely channeling spirit when we're being creative, you know.
Yeah. So so that is connected to the word maybe personal genius, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, I think so.
And I read somewhere that that is from the word genie,
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
which originally is from the word jinn,
Yeah. Ah,
Djainn,
yeah.
which also can mean demon.
Oh, that's interesting.
And once I realised that, and the
Yeah.
Greeks called it the daemon, Daimon.
Mm,
So when I realised that this obviously polarity figures hugely in the world, yeah.
yeah.
Once I realised that demon in the
Mm,
aspect of bogeyman,
yeah.
shadower, and the opposite end is the genius, the the muse, the creative spirit that we've got. That
Yeah.
they're just two different ends, maybe, of a polar arc.
Yeah.
That when they come to meet each other in the middle, they become that yin and yang. And that we can create from our wounds, which a lot of people do. Some
Yeah.
people create fantastic poetry
Yeah.
when they're literally sharing their angst and their pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like creativity can be the almost the encompassing healer of
Yeah.
any of the human conditions.
Yeah. I guess another
would
form of alchemy.
Why would you then think that schools' budget for the creative arts has been cut?
Yeah. I think absolutely. I mean, going back to the conspiracy side, I think there's just an awful lot of, oh gosh, everybody operating in their jobs, especially lower level jobs, which I've had many of, you know, they don't want you to be creative. They want robots, you know, they need people to just go in, log in, do their function and go home. And I wonder if that's part of the reason why there's so much depression and anxiety in the world, because obviously that's skyrocketed. I'd say in part it's because we've all forgotten that spiritual connection. And I'd say the other part is because we're all creative beings. I think we've all got that creativity and we've all got that desire to move beyond a smaller remit, but society often wants to stuff us into these boxes, you know?
So this for me is a perfect explanation of true spirituality rather than religiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, sorry to jump in again. I actually, during COVID, because I got quite freaked out during COVID, I really did. I caved into a lot of fear. And before I'd been traveling off to see the odd shaman and things like that, but obviously we couldn't do that because of lockdown. But I actually started watching videos about Jesus, and I actually converted to Christianity, and I got baptized in a river. And I guess it was amazing for me because I actually felt, you know, I did the confessing sins and things like that, but I felt peace and joy, and it was a supernatural peace and joy. And I thought, Jesus is definitely still accessible, but I don't believe, as you say, the whole religious, you know, the weight of all the craziness that goes with that. I'm not, you know, I don't go down those roads, I guess. At the time I wasn't sure, and I thought that maybe I should, but again, I think that was coming more from a place of fear. Whereas now I try and straddle both paths. So I just have a lot of love for Jesus and a lot of, you know, respect and love for Jesus, but also a lot of respect and love for all things spiritual too. Yeah. And, you know, absolutely both paths. But I think what's happened, obviously, in the name of religion over many years has been horrific, and a way to suppress women again. You know, some of it, like the witch trials and all the awfulness and, you know.
Yeah. So I personally love the concept of the Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
And that is the aspect of Christianity that I will fight for.
Yeah,
if that
lovely.
Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Although I'm not technically a Christian,
yeah,
I respect the Christ consciousness.
yeah.
I also respect the wisdom of the Prophet Muhammad.
Mm.
And I also respect the Jewish teachings, which I find. I love Buddha's almost theoretical wisdom in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. However cryptic it can be. And I think the more cryptic is to make people want to do it for themselves, to find out what it means. And because I'm an avid researcher, then I actually love the cryptic. So if I come across a wisdom teaching that's incredibly cryptic, I will, you know, and it really sparks me. I'll spend a lot of time discovering what does it mean? What does it mean to me? Yeah. So that's like almost like superpower, is that tenacity of wanting to know, wanting to understand.
Lovely. I love Buddhism as well. I'd say, Buddhism, Christianity, and spirituality. But not traditional Christianity are my top three.
Well, what that gave me then was the understanding that I've got this eclectic taste that I can't almost like I call myself Tinkerbell sometimes, but like, you know, a buzzy bee or a butterfly that will settle on
Yeah.
that kind of thing, you know, and that can be very counter to what society would love us to.
Oh, absolutely, Jules. It
Society
wants
would
to
love us to
stuff
be
you in
in.
a box. You will just be this
Absolutely, just in
religion.
one, on one rail, and that's
Yeah.
it. You stay on that monorail for the rest of your life. You have
Yeah.
to be like this. You have to conform.
But
And
actually, as you said, I think all the religions, they probably each got something slightly different to offer, and they're all part
exactly,
of a greater whole, you know?
they all bring something different,
Yeah.
but they all come from, for me, the same thing,
Yeah.
which is exactly what you said at the very beginning of this conversation, which was, you used the term God, I use the term the all, or the
Yeah.
creator, or the universe. I
Yeah.
literally, again, I struggle to label it because
Yeah, me too.
label so many different things. So let's call it the all, which is from the
Yeah,
Hermetic
lovely.
teaching.
Yeah.
I like the Hermetic teaching too.
Mm.
Let's call it the all that is.
Yeah.
So if the all that is that almost super powerful, but knows the theory
Yeah.
and has this intelligence of creating this amazing universe,
Yeah.
then why can't we understand that we are intelligent beings too?
Yeah.
Not in
Absolutely.
the way of passing O levels,
Yeah.
because O levels are man made. But
Yeah.
if the creator makes us, now, one of the teachings that, and I get in trouble for this because when some people, religious people, put a post and they'll say, God created us in his image.
Mm.
No, he didn't. He created us in his imagination.
Yeah.
And when it says image, it's the old fashioned image, which
Yeah.
is something imagined because it's not real.
Yeah.
Whereas it's an image, if you look at it from a mirror, you are the real and
Yeah.
the image is the imagined, but it's just imagined through a mirror.
Yeah.
So therefore, God didn't make us in his image, which is why I didn't get along with the old man with the white beard sat on a cloud
Yeah.
image. He made us in his imagination.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'm saying his, and a lot of people say, but God's feminine. Well, God is feminine, masculine, yin
Yeah, yeah,
yang,
yeah.
whatever. So I just say his because it tends to refer to the aspect of man, as in human.
Yeah.
So that's my conditioned self coming out because that's how we
Yeah.
were taught in school. So
Yeah,
basically, that's
yeah.
ingrained. So I apologise if that offends anyone that I use the word he. That is not intended to offend. So,
No.
but I will put that out there. That I am cognizant of how it can be offensive to some people.
Yeah.
And I did go through a phase of being offended by it myself. God,
Okay.
God was a woman. Hang on, God's a woman. Well, I've got over that now. And it's that, do I want to fight for my right to be offended, or do
Yeah.
I actually want to understand? You know, and I prefer to understand. So
Yeah.
anyway, what was I saying? So, creator. So if you think the creator, we're great, all creator beings,
Mm.
this is unity.
Yeah.
This is where we can understand that we are all one. We're all one with
Yeah.
the stars. We are all one with the asteroids. We are all
Absolutely.
one with every bit of non-matter that's up there
Yeah.
in the universe.
Yeah, yeah.
We are all one. And when
Yeah.
it says we are all one, you
Yeah.
are me, I am you, it doesn't literally mean that you are me, I am you. We are differentiated
Yeah.
because we have an individual sense of personal identity.
Yeah.
We have an ego. So people say when you get rid of your ego, you'll realise that you're exactly the same. However, I don't think we are. We are composed of everything that is out there in the universe.
Mm.
There's a certain something that makes us unique.
Yeah.
For me, that is just soul. So my soul is my uniqueness, and the universe is everything else of which my soul is a part, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if the creator is the creator and made
Mm.
us in his image, in
I
his
love these sort of
imagination,
conversations. Yeah.
made it in his imagination,
Yeah.
then what's the thing he's going to give us that's
Mm.
going to be our superpower?
Yeah.
Is imagination.
Yeah.
So whatever we can imagine, we can create, and we can create a world that is the kind of world we would love to see.
Yeah.
However, you get some people who want to create a world of darkness and misery,
Yeah.
almost demonic
Yeah.
beings, and we have to understand that that actually exists.
Yeah,
So if it
absolutely.
exists, it's in us
Yeah, exactly.
as well.
Absolutely. We're dualistic beings in a dualistic world. And yeah, it's a
So
dualistic universe, I guess. It's
yeah, so that's the place I've come to where I understand that that actually makes sense.
yeah.
That I am a walking demon and I am a walking angel. It's just a matter of degrees as to which one takes precedence.
Yeah.
And if I can just ensure that the demon is catered for,
Yeah.
but is loved as a demon, if that makes sense, that's
Yeah.
not demonic desires in me. It's not to say I am literally a demon, but there will have been things I've done that other people will have found to be demonic.
Yeah.
And yet someone else might not. So I could have said something in all innocence, like, God is a he, and
Mm.
someone would be mortally offended and consider me a demon. If someone else got that I was
Mm.
coming from not that,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have occurred to them that that was incorrect.
Yeah.
So once we can understand that everybody's got their own perception, it's like that story of is it the Snow Queen with the fractured mirror?
I
That
think
we
so.
are all shards of a fractured mirror, if
Yeah,
that makes
it's
sense.
so true. It does make sense. I think, you're saying all this, Jules, makes me think. I used to say they should teach meditation in schools, but I think they should also teach just a little bit of psychology too, so kids just become a bit more self-aware. And, well, I guess meditation would really help with that as well, because it takes a bit of a spiritual journey or a personal or meditation or something, or a psychological journey to get to that point of recognizing that shadow self within us. A lot of people don't, and that's the problem. And a lot of people in high places don't, and think it's perfectly okay to say shout and scream and behave appallingly to say they're subordinates at work or what have you, and they don't even know there's anything wrong. And like the school system itself, with public schools, and young boys get sent off and they're really lonely and they get sent off to this school system, and the school system just bullies, mocks, turns them into quite horrible people in some cases, and then these people become our politicians, and they're broken people, a lot of them not in touch with their own emotions. But we've accepted so much in our society and normalized it, and then we wonder why we've got problems.
Yeah. And I think there's good and bad in everything.
Yeah.
It's that benefits and detriments. So you could get a public school person who actually got through it.
Yeah, some people do, some
Not
people do,
necessarily
but
enjoying
some
it. And
people don't.
what takes into that is the initiatory process that a lot of Indigenous people put their males through
Wow,
when
yeah.
they're teenagers. And maybe some of them don't make it. But there will be a lot that do, because they've got elders who did. They've got elders to bring them through it and help them through it. Whereas I understand what you're saying. We might have that initiatory process of the public school where terrible pain and trauma is inflicted, but there is no elders to
No,
help
and
them
that's a
through
really
that.
good point.
Maybe
Exactly.
other than to say to the boys, oh, just pull your socks up and just get on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in the Indigenous, because the wisdom of that has been deeply rooted, it's broader, wider, deeper, and more adept than some of the practices we've adopted that are simply copies or prestige of the ancient Indigenous wisdom. And when there's a fracture in the line of inheritance from our roots, then that can cause that side shift or a schism that isn't as quality value because it hasn't got the depth
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
that's why I love the ancient
Oh, I do as
ways
well.
and the
Yeah.
teachings, and it's
Yeah.
being able to bring them into um, being in the now, but it has to be with discernment,
Yeah.
incredible discernment.
Yeah.
And it's for me, it's about so how would you say your sense of being rooted? I think being rooted is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Sense of being rooted is whilst being a spiritual being.
That is a really good question. I think for me, grounding can be a problem because when I went along to a couple of spiritual psychic fairs sort of thing last, and I got I got my healings and everything, and they kept saying to me, ground, keep grounded, because I have been in my head too much. So I went home and I immediately did a grounding meditation, and it sorted me out. And I felt much more rooted. So I think that's one way of doing it, just visualizing roots going into the earth and having that calmness and just taking a breath, because it can be very easy to just get caught up in our heads again, or for me at least. And I think coming back to that sense of being grounded and meditating, I think is really, really important, as that again connects you. And, I think, yeah, I think it's very easy to go off into a floaty space. When I was younger, I did, because I connected so beautifully then with meditation. And I struggle these days sometimes to meditate. But at the time, I just popped off into a lovely meditation and I was floating away, but my feet weren't touching the ground. And so I needed to come back to a bit more practicality and have that balance again, And I think that's kind of important. But I guess we're all on our journeys as well. So while some people might be unrooted for a while, maybe they're meant to be, and then at some point they will come back down to earth and get grounded in practicality again.
And don't you think kids are the most adept imaginers?
Oh,
Children,
they're beautiful. I
they're
love
the
their
most adept
imagination.
imaginers, aren't they?
Yeah, they're so beautiful, the
However,
things they come up with. Yeah.
exactly. But if you ask a kid to play in the mud,
Yeah.
they love that too. So
Yeah.
that only the most adept imaginers ever, they are incredibly rooted because they
Yeah.
want to discover things. They want to open up that soil. They
Yeah.
want to maybe, not all children, but a lot of them will want to touch the worms and, oh, what's that slug? And they might even want to try and eat it. But they will dig in, they will explore because they come here with that innocence. It's
Yeah.
that the pure innocence of
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
spiritual,
Yeah.
in that sense of wonderment. If you show a child something that excites them,
Yeah.
their eyes widen and
Oh,
they're,
it's lovely. Yeah.
and to us, it's just, well, it's just a leaf.
Yeah.
But to them, if they've never seen a leaf that looks like that before, or
Yeah.
never picked one up off the forest floor, and they
Yeah.
don't know what it feels like and they touch it for the first time,
Yeah.
they're going to be, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about wonderment and curiosity as well.
Absolutely. We need to reconnect with those senses an awful lot more. Definitely. I'm so with you on that. Because I think as well, where we've got like electric lights, we come in, we switch on our lights, our rooms are floodlit, everything is, all of the wonder and the magic of, say, having candles lit in your corners of your house, and then you could tell stories, and now we have the TV to, so I think just sitting around a campfire telling stories, and yeah, just getting that wonderment again and that sense of joy. I think it's so important. Go out into the forest, connect with nature, walk along a beach, and really just be present in the moment, a bit of mindfulness as well, and just really have that gratitude. I think for me too, just gratitude for being alive, and just thank you, universe, I'm still here, even though it's mental on this planet. But having that gratitude and that joy, and that, I think they're really important to try and keep, because life will try and stamp on your head like the Monty Python foot from the sky. Society will keep trying to do that. So I think we've got the power to retain those emotions as much as we can with the help of spirit, I guess. And I think
And,
it's really
yeah,
important,
sorry, things are so accessible to us.
Yeah.
How many people do you think that, and I love that image of what you say about the Monty Python foot coming down from the sky, because when you feel it coming, you can just go, "Boop," and you can just step to the side.
Yeah.
And the sidestep is nature. The
Yeah,
sidestep is the beach, the sea, the mountains, the lakes,
absolutely.
the woodland, the forest.
Yeah,
That is where it's, well, where am I going to go to if I sidestep? Go into nature.
yeah,
Well, if it's that easy to be
yeah,
rooted, where we can find roots,
yeah.
why do you think so many people are more wanting to live in a concrete city?
Oh,
Why do you think that
mm.
preference has um, come up for so many people? And I know
I,
it did for me.
yeah,
It
wow,
did.
okay. Oh, wow. See, for me, I felt a knee-jerk reaction against it. I've always hated the whole sort of concrete city thing. So, and I've been lucky enough that I can live in nature now, but I didn't for a while. For a while, I lived in Croydon and Bromley, and Bromley was quite nice in some areas, but others not so much. In Croydon, where I lived, again, not so nice, you know. But I think, I don't know. For me, I'd say it is a disconnection. We're told so much by society. You're told you go out, you get a job, you live in this, you know, you live in a flat or you live in a house or da 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 da, but you're not told to go out and look at the sky and enjoy nature. And you're not, and when you're younger, perhaps as well, you might not be quite so aware of your own really deep inner needs. You know, you're trying to answer all the superficial calls. So you're trying to get your good job, or you're trying to get your, you know, look for a partner, or you're trying to tick all the boxes that you think you've got to tick, and you don't think there's another way. And you know, and for some people as well, I guess life can be more brutal as well, so they're just fighting to survive and they're on survival mode. And I think for a lot of people, it isn't until they get much older that you can perhaps sidestep the madness a little bit and go, whew, well, that's all crazy, isn't it? And what else is there? You know, I love the idea of living off grid and things like this, for instance, but I guess I feel more of a disconnect with society's values now I'm older. When I was younger, I still felt it, but I didn't know why. I couldn't articulate. I just felt uncomfortable and it didn't feel right. But it didn't occur to me there could be other ways of living and stuff like that, you know?
When did you discover that there were other ways of living?
I think, again, it was around, oh gosh, probably around sort of 2003, while I was still at uni and I was just starting to be, you know, I was like, oh, I'm quite spiritual now, you know, and I was on these forums and I read another book by Tom Hartman. I can't remember what the title of that is now. Yeah, but he wrote a book, his first book, he might have written others, and it was just about what we're doing to the planet and all the craziness, and hey, we need to stop this madness and all the rest of it, you know. So I think for me, I always felt that connection with nature, but then I started to look on forums and I saw some people who were living alternative lifestyles and things like this. And I think in my heart, I've always been a hippie, but I've always conformed. And I guess now I'm older, I just like to step away from a bit of that conformity if I can, you know.
Yeah. Something came up for me to ask when you were speaking, and it's
Yeah.
gone. But can we talk about this what we spoke about earlier? We did have a little pre-chat, didn't we? And we spoke
Yeah.
about loss of memory to a
Yeah.
certain extent.
Yeah. I
And
loved what you said about that. I absolutely loved what you said about that.
you gave me a scenario where you discovered that you'd forgotten someone's name after having a
Yeah.
conversation, and they'd forgotten yours, that you would continue to remember that person's energy.
Yeah. I absolutely love that idea.
And Maya Angelou came, apparently it's accredited to Maya Angelou. I don't know how true it is, but
Yeah.
she said people will not always remember what
Mm.
you did, but they will always remember how you left them feeling.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
And people confuse it to
Mm.
think that that's saying that other people can make you feel something when
Mm.
actually they probably can't.
Yeah.
And the chances are actually they can't.
Yeah.
However, you will remember their energy. That's what it
Yeah.
means. It doesn't mean that other people can make you feel something, but actually deep down on the basis of manipulation, people
Mm.
can make you feel
Yeah.
something. And there's an awful lot. When I say an awful lot, maybe I should rephrase that and say there is quite a lot of spiritual teaching that says you are responsible for how you feel. Or
Yeah.
not, but I disagree.
Mm.
You can't be when you're 6 months old. You can't be when you're 5. You
No.
can't be when you're 10. You
No.
can't be even when you're 15 and up to, they say, 25, which is when they say that we should be starting our first individuation. Well, maybe it could be even be our third individuation. With different teachings. People can still make you feel.
I completely
And I'll
agree
give you
with
an
that.
example.
Yeah.
If someone is upset and I want them to feel more upset, I will rage at them and call them awful things. If someone is upset and I want them to feel better, I will say lots of lovely things maybe about them to try and bring some beauty into their life to help raise their vibration. But either way, I am making that person feel something because I want something. I want them to feel bad. I want them to feel good. And there are people out there who want to make people feel something, and they can do it by using manipulation. People can manipulate.
I completely agree with that. And I think that teaching can be a form of spiritual bypassing as well, because it says, yes, you know, on the one hand, we can be responsible for how we feel, but we're still going to feel a seismic shock if somebody accuses us of something, or if someone's angry with us, or we're going to feel that, and we have to feel our feelings, and we have to process it. And then it's what we do with it after that, that we choose to take it on board, or we choose to go, well, they might have been right to an extent, or actually no, they won't, and I reject that. But you have to work to get to that point, don't you? You can't just, you know.
The thing they miss is the shadow aspect, where people might then say, so what's the remedy? The remedy is to tune into your own intention.
Yeah, exactly. Again, and it comes back to that inner wisdom, absolutely, and that inner, and your intuition.
That inner strength and empowerment. So to just flippantly say no one can make you feel anything actually is incorrect.
I completely agree.
Ignorance for me, rather than a higher wisdom.
I completely agree. And also, I don't like that for so many reasons, because it leaves people in trouble then, and struggling with no one to go to, in the sense of the spiritual people who believe that won't be there for them, because they go, it's on you to change it, you shouldn't have let yourself feel that in the first place. And I don't like all that, you know. I think there can be that dark side within the spiritual movement as well, you know.
And I think it's that nuanced understanding, which is why some of the spiritual teachings, the old ancient wisdom, is cryptic. So that only people who want to, I don't really get that, or and it's to encourage people to dive deeper.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's to encourage people to go, I don't really get that, so I'm going to ignore it. Which is exactly the same for me as leaving this electronic storyteller in the corner of your room. Isn't it? It's letting that electronic storyteller become the replacement for all the ancient stories that
I completely
spoke
agree
about,
with
where
that.
we sit round a circle. We sit round the candle. You know, if a candle, like I grew up in the 70s, where this literally switched everything off at 7 p.m. And I remember sitting there with my mum and my sister, and we'd have candles on. And me and my sister would do shadow shows on the wall.
Amazing. Yes, suddenly you get this mystical, amazing world.
We create all these different shapes on the wall in the shadow of the candle. And we'd entertain my mum, you know, and we would make up our own entertainment.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is exactly what we did as children. So I've got that I can fall back on. But how many people nowadays who've got lights at their fingertips constantly, who've got everything automated for them?
Exactly.
How would those people survive in the absence of all those amenities. And I'm
I
not saying all those
completely agree.
amenities are wrong, they're not wrong. However, it's getting to some sort of balance of,
Yeah.
and again, the word that comes up for me is rooted.
Rooted.
So if
Yeah.
you can't grow a flower, and you can't grow a cabbage, you
Yeah.
can't nourish your own soil.
Yeah.
For me, I would invite people to just learn
Oh,
or
absolutely.
connect to people who can.
Yeah. Because that again is such a nourishing, and essential. I think that's again, people have become so disconnected, especially if you live in a high-rise flat.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying people should literally roll the sleeves up and start getting, people say, get your elbows up to, get the soil up to your elbows and feel that energy. That actually is true. But not everybody can do that.
No.
So for me, it's about finding other ways to get grounded. It's
Yeah.
finding other ways to be people call it self-sufficiency.
Mm.
It's self-operating. It's becoming your own everything
Yeah.
in a way. It's becoming your own everything, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
taking that responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think connecting with spirit again, and
Yeah.
just connecting with each other, but in a deep way. Because I
Yeah.
think society, we have all these very superficial connections. And again, I think the TV's got a lot to answer for, because people just stick it on and it becomes background noise and it becomes all their entertainment. And as you say, if there's a power cut, people absolutely will forget, well, what did I do before the TV? Even picking up a book is more nourishing because it encourages your imagination. And I think if people just sat in circle, if villages had a night where people came together and had drumming sessions or sat in circle and just told the stories of how they are, what they've been up to for a week, and how they feel about things. And I think they connect in such a lovely way. And that would be such a healing activity. It's like, when was the last time you saw your neighbours? I see mine so sporadically. And we're all in our own little worlds. And I guess life never used to be like that. When we started out in tribal ways, we'd probably come together so frequently to have sharing groups and all sorts of things, and connection, and just look up at the stars and feel that sense of wonderment, as you say.
Yeah. The connection with all that is.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. And there's some people out there who
Exactly.
say it's all a hologram, it's a construct, it's a deception, it's an illusion. To be fair, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
What you want to call it. No one really cares about what it's called.
No.
Despite us needing labels to orient ourselves in the world, of course we need them. But when you can just let them go for a while,
exactly.
and
That's
not
very
let the
freeing.
labels come in,
Yeah.
and just gaze.
Yeah.
And not try and interpret anything, just connect. Just
Yeah.
literally connect. You're literally then connecting to the infinite energy of the universe, aren't you?
Exactly. And that's amazing. And you've touched on something else there again, and I think it's got worse in recent years, it's our need to constantly be labeling and constantly defining. And so when you have a conversation with someone, and as you say, all that is, or God, or is it goddess, and then everyone's arguing because they're all in their heads and they're all caught up with what they think it must mean for them, instead of just letting go and just sitting in the presence of it and allowing it to enter into them with joy and love. They're in their heads going, but no, it's called this, no, it's called that, and then they're having an argument about it, and they're not connecting with it at that moment, And I've been there too. I used to be doing that.
Well, to be fair, again, like I said, we've got to have that, personal identity. We've got to know.
Yeah.
And it almost a paradox that we have that need to know.
Yeah.
But then when we do know, all that does is reveal what we don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then once you're comfortable with that, then that makes me really, really happy, because I think, oh my God, that means there's loads more to discover.
Does me as well. I love it, because it is the great mystery, as they call it in Native Americans. And I love that. I love that it remains a great mystery, even now, with all scientists and the greatest minds in the world cannot get a grip on it. I love that.
They can't. And the ones I admire are the ones who will actually admit that we scientists do not know all the answers. And
Yeah,
I rub my
absolutely.
hands with glee because
Oh,
I
I do.
think, thank God for that. Thank the
Yeah.
creator for that. Thank
Yeah,
whoever she is, whether,
exactly.
whether she's a great fish or the spaghetti monster in the sky, who knows?
Could be an octopus.
An octopus, whatever. Yeah. So for all the wisdom teachings, so
Yeah,
I used to beat myself up for having this eclectic taste because
yeah,
I struggled to complete.
yeah, I do.
That fizz of discovery had gone. It was like,
Yeah,
oh, right, okay, what's the next thing?
yeah,
Which
I've been a bit like that.
I realised could come across as being quite superficial. I wasn't
Mm.
um, the kind of friend that would be constantly ringing my friend to say, how are you today? Yeah. And then now and again, I'd think of the person and realise, oh, hang on a minute, I've not spoke to that person for a while. I'll give them a call.
Mm.
And there would be some friends would say, about time you called. And it was at that point I
Mm.
thought, then this isn't going to carry on being a friend.
Yeah.
What that gave me was discernment
Mm.
from someone could criticise me for something they saw about me.
Mm.
But if I could look at it and go, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
however, that is who I am,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
will just try not to do it to the point where other people think I'm something different. So
Yeah.
once I began to learn to know who I was, I
Yeah,
could say
lovely.
to someone what I was prepared to offer
Mm.
rather than what I expected.
Yeah, lovely. Absolutely lovely.
That helped.
Yeah.
So what I discovered was because I've got that eclectic taste, I can
Mm.
look at lots of. So then someone explained to me something called triangulation. So in
Yeah.
the narcissism realm, a narcissist
Narcissism.
will
Yeah.
bring a third person into the relationship to make you
Yeah.
feel jealous, to prompt you to go into low vibrational feelings. However, in the healing realm, there
Yeah.
is also triangulation in that if someone says, wow, it's about this eclecticism, someone says
Mm.
this, and you go, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It will serve you to have a look at two different opposing views. So you've
Yeah.
got three literal opposing views
Yeah.
so that then you are not jumping onto something that makes you think, yeah, I agree. And it literally just validates what you think you've been thinking.
Mm.
If you can look at two more opposing views,
Yeah.
what you will see is the correlation between them, the correspondences between them all.
That's a really interesting point.
And you will then be able to see every single one of them as having value,
Yeah.
which then helps you to withstand if someone has an opposing view from you.
That is such an interesting point, Jules. Yeah.
So when I coach, if I'm coming across something new and I think,
Yeah.
oh, that's useful for one of my clients, would it though?
Yeah.
What are the two other maybe opposing views? But what
Makes a
happens
lot of
is when you
sense.
find that, you
Yeah.
then find your own creativity coming up. So literally out of the three things, what comes up from that is your own creativity.
Yeah.
You actually
Lovely.
create something yourself.
That makes so much sense as well, because I guess you're going deeper into it then, rather than just knee-jerk
Absolutely.
reacting. You're
Absolutely.
looking at it and it's making you really think and feel about what it is that you're reacting against.
Exactly what is it? And
Yeah.
not just jumping on the first thing
Yeah.
you go, oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, you hear a song and you want to get the album. Yeah. And you buy the next album, the next album, the next album, and you become a
Yeah.
group. When we get older, though, the groupie aspect needs to be dispensed with.
Yeah.
And what I discovered was something called Prisca Theologia.
Oh, I've not heard that before.
So basically, it describes what I've just described about where you find the correspondences.
Right. Okay.
What I was talking about within a lot of these religions, when you find those correspondences and you
Yeah.
can find your own,
Yeah.
what that
Absolutely.
then becomes is the golden thread
Do you know,
that
I was
you
just
see
thinking
you've
golden
got.
thread. Yeah.
Exactly. You see that you've literally got that with source.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. It can really strengthen, and as you say, add to the discernment, because then you really cooking with gas, you really can see what's going on in a
Yeah.
deeper way as well. Yeah.
So initially, when I said to you about triangulation, you went, "Oh yeah,"
Yeah.
and I introduced the narcissistic, right? So when you see how powerful that is when it's done in a healthy way, you
Yeah.
can understand how narcissists might use it
Yeah.
almost because it's an embedded memory of
Yeah.
how to do it.
Oh, that's an
But
interesting point.
they
Yeah.
just literally lose how to do it,
Yeah.
but they know it's there because it
Mm,
just becomes adopted. It
that's a
just
very
becomes
interesting point. Yeah.
an
Yeah.
unconscious way of being driven by fear.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the practice itself is wrong. It just means how you do it.
That's a
It's
really good point.
possibly
Yeah. Yeah.
unhealthy. So,
Yeah.
and that's another thing as well. So it's understanding how religions can become unhealthy
Yeah.
because they've become echo chambers.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a good point, Jules. And I think it's such a powerful point you've got there as well, because yeah, very often, as you say, religion can become an echo chamber. We gravitate to the things we love and we don't really explore why. And then when someone comes along with an opposing view, we can just attack it and we don't think about it necessarily. And we're not willing to look at their view. And I've done this myself. And then if we actually do look into it, and yeah, you can take those bits of discernment and actually check out your feelings around it and why you're reacting in that way. And I think you can have a much more deep understanding, but also maybe more empathy with the other person as well. And maybe you can find a bridge across rather than just a barrier. No, I'm not, I'm not going to go there,
Exactly. And if you can then understand
Yeah.
because one of my greatest challenges in life was dealing with a narcissistic parent, then
Oh,
I would want to run away from the whole concept and
yeah.
like, oh, bad people, good people, bad
Yeah.
people, good people. Now I can sit back a bit, apply my own stuff, that
Yeah.
walk the talk thing. If I was trying to apply it with a client, I'd be saying, try this, try that. I got to do
Yeah.
it myself. If I then go back to that place where I see that,
Yeah.
what I might look as misuse of that practice, that's all it is. It's like a
Yeah.
child handling a pen. They're not using it correctly
Yeah.
until they learn how to use it correctly.
Yeah.
So how do you relate to that
Mm,
energy? How do you relate to those people? It's literally about teaching,
yeah.
sharing. And if they then don't feel it, you can then walk away.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
a really good point.
that where the separation that they don't get it will make them want to walk away.
Yeah.
Because I've done that when I've gone for something that I love, I've wanted to walk away from the things I don't understand.
Yeah. Me too. Absolutely.
We come back full circle.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's a really powerful point. It really is. Because I think we'd all better understand each other. And I think things have gotten worse in that arena with online chat because people are
Yeah.
so knee-jerk reactionary now. It's gotten ridiculous out there. You can't have a normal conversation sometimes because people are like, no, not looking at that, and you're crazy, and la la la, and off it goes.
Yeah. And
And
because that happens, all we've got to do really is develop our own sense of empowerment and say,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy, it's fine.
absolutely, absolutely. It is a crazy world out there. And I think, yeah, having that discernment, going within and just, yeah, finding that still space within the madness, maybe,
Yeah.
definitely,
So
yeah.
how would you personally
Mm,
figure that your stuff ripples out? Because I explained how I feel mine does.
yeah,
I'd love to learn how you feel because I know you get that if
yeah,
it's heal yourself, then you're literally healing,
yeah. I
seven
think
generations back, 7 generations forward. How do you feel that you ripple it out? How do you ripple?
That is such a cool question. I think, oh gosh, I am not sure. I think personally, I massively believe in the power of positivity and the power of love. And so for me, you know, and I'm not always a happy, positive being. I am most of the time. I'm really lucky. That's good genetics. Lucky. My parents were lovely, happy people. But I think the power of positivity, the power of believing in goodness, the power of believing in all that is, the power of belief, I think for me, that is everything. And I think sometimes even the littlest interaction, if you're happy and positive, can really, you know, had a conversation with someone on the phone last night, and I wasn't trying to be positive, but I was so happy. And it was a phone call about, you know, just a mundane phone call, trying to find where a card was going to be sent. And I phoned up, I spoke to a bod at the council, and we had a lovely conversation and ended up talking about the Aurora Borealis, because apparently in some parts of northern UK you can see it. I was like, wow. And so we just had this fabulous conversation. And I guess it's openness to whatever might come, you know, because you never know where a conversation can go, and you never know what an interaction can mean, and you never know what can happen, and how, you know, how spirit can work through you and all the rest of it. And just the power in that, I guess, just the power in gratitude, positivity and joy and humbleness as much as possible. You know, because I know I can be a massive tit a lot of the time. So I attribute it a lot to spirit. And I try and get out of the way of my ego. If ever I think, oh, I did quite well today, aren't I? I say, Sarah, shut up. It's not you, it's spirit. You know? But I think those things are really, really powerful. And I think for me, I've seen it as well, like for a personal anecdote, like the power of positivity, you know. My parents, they've both passed now, and they're beautiful people. And my dad, many, many years ago, his dad had lung cancer. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, his dad died from cancer. But after that, my dad obviously completely in grief. And then he became ill, and he got diagnosed with lung cancer, and he was on a ward with many other people around him, all dying, you know, a horrible thing. But I don't know what it was in him. He's just always had this great spirit, and so's my mum. And one morning they did exercises, because I guess back in the day you still did exercises on a hospital ward. And they had the nurse there, and Dad did a forward roll, and the story goes, ran out the hospital, ran round the block, came back in, and the nurse just pointed at it and went, you get inside, you know. But they checked him out, Jools, and they realised he didn't have lung cancer at all. It was his top rack of teeth that was poisoning him. So they whipped his teeth out, and then he was fine, and they didn't have to remove a lung. But had he not done that, they'd have mistakenly whipped a lung out, sort of thing. So I guess it's just, there is so much power and beauty and positivity, and it's out there and it's accessible to us, you know.
And I bet the rest of the patients, I would defy anyone to say that not every single one of them would have laughed at what your dad did. You know, the power of laughter.
Absolutely. Oh, the power of laughter as well. Dad had some stories about hospitals. There was another time when you know, he just took someone to the pub, you know, and from a hospital, he just whipped him off to a pub and things like this. And then another very quick story. He was in a hospital bed, and I think the people came around to do the last rites. This was still with his, you know, lung cancer that wasn't lung cancer. And the religious board said to my dad, you know, they said, now, and this was awful. They said, now, look, heaven is this beautiful place, and it's lovely, walled garden and all the rest of it. And they said, but we don't have the darkies there. Because this is back in the day, of course, so much racism. And Dad, being my dad, he went, oh, well, where do they go then? Sort of thing. Oh, they're not in the garden, they're somewhere else. He said, well, can I have a request? And they went, anything you want. And he went, could I have a bloody big ladder so I can nip over and go where they're going? I just thought that was lovely. And the nurse on the ward apparently afterwards gave my dad, she had a cupboard, cheeky little pint of Guinness, like a little can of Guinness. She gave my dad a Guinness and said, my husband's a darkie. She said, I couldn't say anything at the time, but well done for saying that. So
my days. And just a caveat for people who are not of the generation that we're at, that these words are meant as anecdotal.
Yes.
And I personally, I know you do, understand that those words are very offensive to you.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, no offense when I say that. Absolutely. That's just as it was relayed. Yeah. But yeah, the power of positivity and having a bloody good laugh as well. It's so important. And I think a lot of now wokeism and everything has taken away a lot of that laughter, because it's an awful lot of infighting and people just arguing over semantics, I guess, what this means and what that means and da 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 da. But it's like they're dissecting the human experience and they've forgotten joy, laughter, positivity, all of these things, compassion, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's that so in terms of the collective, how then that becomes a mass movement of wounded energy.
Yeah.
And obviously on the deeply magical belief, one could say, well, that's why we create our reality, because we're almost creating a rain cloud, and then obviously we're going to get rain.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. That's it again. And how much of this do we buy into? If we don't buy into it too much, perhaps that helps dissipate the rain cloud a little, you know.
Absolutely. And if we can add a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Yeah. So on that Mary Poppins note, I'd like to say thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Jools. Thank you for having me. I love conversations like this, and I don't often talk to many people these days about spiritual things or, you know, and it's so lovely when I do. So thank you very much indeed. I've really enjoyed it.
Lovely to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been lovely to be on your show. So thank you.
So anyone watching, thank you for watching. And I'm sure there will be an invitation to Sarah to come back again.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, thank you, Jools. It's been an absolute pleasure. So
all right.
Thank you. Take care. Goodbye. Bye.